Welcome, welcome, everyone. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about relationship hospitality. Um, as Nicole just mentioned, hospitality is changing, not just in Las Vegas, but everywhere. And one of the key features about hospitality is the relationship aspect that's going along with that. It's not just about service anymore. So a quick intro about me, because you guys don't know me like you know Bernie. Bernie and I met during COVID. And so a lot of times I say I have COVID privilege because had it not been for the pandemic, I wouldn't have had an opportunity to meet him. And it seemed that with what he's done over his lifetime and me being in the gifting industry since 2005, our businesses aligned with one another and our mindsets certainly fall in line as well. And so I have, like I just said, been doing this since 2005, originally from Brooklyn, New York. I've been married for 31 years. I have two kids at age 26 and 13, which shows I don't plan my children out very well, but that's okay. And so, but hospitality and gifting and helping people and making people happy has sort of been my mantra through my life. And so I'm excited to be in front of you and have an opportunity to talk about how to make your life a little bit easier. Bernie?
Absolutely. And so it's great to see you and to be with you today. And as you can tell, I know a few of you on the line, and we've got an intimate group here. So definitely, let's make this a conversation, and we welcome your questions and your thoughts and your ideas as well. Some of the challenges that you're facing, the exciting opportunities you're looking forward to. Don't hesitate to share that, during our call today. And my background, I've been working with hospitality since 1994 was when I found the hospitality industry. I guess I've always been in service, but that was really where I took it to that, I really enjoy this whole experience of serving people in this sphere. And then I married that with training, and I've been a professional trainer for the last over 20 years now. Doing work with Freeman Group and Forbes Travel Guide, to my current role as president of Polished Service. So having spent time in Las Vegas, I understand the dynamics of that city and the intricacies as well. So I couldn't be more excited to be talking about this very important opportunity that we have. Because as I've been sharing with some of my colleagues, I said, rare do we have an opportunity to rebirth, experiences. No one saw what we were going through coming, and now we have a chance to come back, in the spirit that we would really love to come back in. And so it's a huge opportunity. I'm a half glass, overflowing kind of person. I'm super excited about the opportunities, including the challenges that lie ahead. Because as Nicole mentioned at the start of the call, it's different now. So that's what we want to talk a little bit about today.
Yes, for sure. And so in looking at what we've all gone through in the last year and a half, like Bernie just mentioned, nobody was prepared for COVID. And that includes the governments all across the world. Nobody knew what to do or how to handle it. And everything became a game day decision, right? And so unfortunately, the way things worked out, the hospitality and the travel industry, which go hand in hand, and sports all went down the hardest. The crazy domino effect that caused of job loss was intense, right? Like everybody was suffering. And so for those that I was aligned with in hospitality in Texas, where we are, there were very few who were kept on during the pandemic, which made their lives doubly crazy because everything fell on one person, where before, there were certain hotels that had teams of people of 15 or more handling catering and sales and meetings and all those things down to one person. Or if you've been lucky enough to have been hired back, but you're not yet at full staff, you've already been dealing with the prospect of the fact that you've got to do more with less, right? And everything sort of falls on you. And that it's impossible to cover all areas and be perfect all the time, right? And so the good news is we're here to help you breathe, right? We're here to help you let go of some of those things that you don't have control over. And we're going to talk about what you can do going forward during this recovery, right? Because what we're seeing now is that the recovery is just as slammed as the pandemic. Now we're short on workforce. We have a changing workforce. We've got people that were in hospitality that are no longer in hospitality anymore, not coming back. And so for those people that are not coming back, we've lost the decades of experience that they had to be able to pass down to the new people, right? And we've got people jumping in, trying to get trained and learn things on the fly. And so everything is constantly in motion. And then you add to the fact that people are so excited to travel again, which is cool, right? We want people traveling
Yes,
again.
it is.
So the experts, right, thought the trajectory of things coming back were going to go a little bit different than what actually happened. So I had an opportunity to participate in a webinar that the ILHA put on, right? The International Luxury Hotel Association. This was back in March, right? People are starting to get vaccinated. We're starting to see things beginning to open up, right? We have a new president. We've got the economy starting to flow again. Things seem to be going in the right direction, but they really thought that the market was going to come back in segments over a 2 to 3 year period. So initially, during this webinar, they stated, and these were people from like the Rosewood properties, people internationally from Europe, from Canada, people that were in hospitality for 20, 30 years, who really knew what they were talking about, right? But it's funny because as experts, that's why we do this, right? Because they don't always get it right. But here's what was interesting. They really thought that individual travel was going to come back first to the drive-to resorts, right? Don't have to get on a plane if I can drive to, like, so places in California, for example, going to Santa Barbara, you can drive there. You can drive to Ojai. You can drive to Northern California and go to some of those resorts, the coastal areas. Hospitality places that have a lot of outdoor experiences. They thought we're really going to see an influx and needed to be prepared for that coming back full force. Next, they thought business travel was going to happen after that within 6 months to a year. The timeline after that, 6 months to a year, was going to be small group. And then 2 to 3 years down the line, large group. Reality, it's all coming back at once. Everything's happening at once. Everybody is anxious to dive in and get in there, right?
Exactly. I think that the drive market kind of prognosis was, it was natural because people just thought that it was going to be a little while before people felt comfortable traveling in an enclosed space to, perhaps a long distance. I recently went overseas on a project and, it was still kind of a bit of a journey to get through some of the countries, but all I had to do was do it once. And now I'm a pro at it again. So everything is expedited, in other words. And now people aren't just driving to, someplace that's very close. They're getting on planes, they're traveling. And as you can see from July 4th weekend, where everyone got crushed with travel, it was one of those things that's, it's coming back much faster than we anticipated. And with that, it's also creating some new dynamics for the providers, all of us in here, the service providers. How do we handle this in this new setup with a new team? Because as Melanie mentioned, a lot of people left the industry to survive. And of course, they get replenished with a lot of new people that are learning the industry, excited to be here, but they're at the front of their careers. And we've all been at that front place, and we know that we can only drink from the fire hose so quickly. It's what's happening out there. It's what we see. So now the challenge is, how do we deliver some of this high touch experience in a new way, in a way that allows us to do it quickly, efficiently, within new budget constraints, and as we get those back in order, with the changing traveler as well. And so it's an exciting time, but it's not an easy time.
Very true. I love what Bernie just said about delivering that level of service with that extra high touch, because it's the touch, really, right? Clients already have an expectation of good service. That's a given now, right? That's no longer the standard. The standard is kicked up a few notches because people are looking for that connection. Because what did we lose during COVID? Everybody lost connection with family, with friends, rites of passage, babies being born, birthday parties, holidays with family and friends, not just to travel, but the ability to just be connected to one another, where we couldn't even give each other hugs, right? Depression went up. everybody could feel that. And so now what everybody's looking for is they're looking for those connections everywhere they go, because there's been such a lack of connection over the last year and a half. And so this is where you in the hospitality industry have an opportunity to let go of the fact that you've got budget constraints. I know it's hard, but we got to let that go. We got to let go of the fact that we've got staffing inconsistencies, right? Because the clients are going to forgive that if you're connecting with them. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they're trying to get back to those relationships. And so this is where the relationship aspect is coming into hospitality now as it never had before. And so what winds up happening is that level of service that you provide with that extra touch is what creates the connection, right? The touch creates the connection, and then the connection lays the foundation for the relationship. And then once you've got the relationship going, then what you have is you've no longer have the situation where your hotel is just a place to be lodging for a few days. Now you've turned it into an experience, right? So the relationship forges that experience for people. And that's what people are looking for. They are looking for the experience, right? And that's what has to be delivered now. Not just excellent service, but an experience.
It is. It's so true. And to Melanie's point about, the foundation is there. It just needs to be rekindled. Knowing places like Las Vegas, the places you represent, the places we work with, there's already a foundation there. It might just be an ember, a glowing ember right now, but that the guest, while they're looking for connection and they're going to have a little bit more patience at the beginning, we know human nature takes over, and that exceptional service demand it's coming. It's already here, but it's going to come, and the patience is going to wear thinner and thinner as we rebuild and come back. So exceptional service, like now that's the new challenge, right? How do I provide an exceptional guest experience with what I have to work with? And so to me, and this goes back to what I've been doing for decades now, it comes back to emotional connections. It comes back to sensory activation, really looking at how are we during a check-in process or during an in-room dining, as we bring in-room dining and room service back, or as we deliver a thoughtful touch amenity at turn down. How are we creating that connection with the guest, something that they could perhaps take away with them back to where they came from, so that they can keep that trip to Las Vegas or to our property alive as long as they can? Or how can I wow them in a quick manner when they are dining in my restaurant, knowing that I'm a little bit tight on staff and I have multiple tables, but is there something I can do to work with culinary, to be able to create a little something to lift everything, every opportunity I have. And it's not the big things that are going to create this emotional connection. It's going to be a lot of the little things being done well. And that's kind of what I'm speaking to the clients about right now is, don't worry about the big expensive items, do the little things extremely well, achieve some consistency with it, and your guests are going to appreciate it. They'll come back for that. Little things like writing a note, right? Writing a note for a birthday or an anniversary. You've identified it's a special occasion. The guests, yes, they're coming back, they're excited to travel, but they're still kind of keeping an eye on everything. So when they land in my restaurant or on my property, I want them to feel that I'm extremely excited to have them with me. I realized they had numerous choices. So how can I welcome them in, create a sense of expectation that I knew you were coming, and I'm super excited that you're here and you've chosen me for this special occasion, or you've chosen me for your first trip and adventure back. Whatever it is, if I feel that personal touch from you, I'm going to be connecting to you. And if we can do it at the front of the stay, that only bodes well, because ultimately they might be able to, if we do that across their stay, their journey of 2 days or 4 days, then they leave there thinking, okay, that was an investment worthwhile. I'm confident again in travel. And thank you, Hotel XYZ, because you helped me build my confidence back. It's a really interesting place we're at right now.
That was excellent. I agree with Bernie 1,000%. And never underestimate the power of a handwritten note. And sometimes it's even nicer if that note can come from the maid, right? Have the maid write them a note. So glad you're here. If you need anything, let me know. A lot of hotels now are on if you need service while you're here for a few days, call. We're not just going to automatically come and clean your room every day. But if the maid writes a note to set that expectation, like Bernie said at the front of the stay, when they walk in and they see a note from Jane, their maid, that lets them know, but I'm here for you, whatever you need. All you have to do is dial this extension and we'll make sure you have what you need. I'll share a story. So my son is 13 and he has autism and he loves trains. And we're lucky enough to have some beautiful trains here in the North Texas area. And for his birthday, we did a little staycation at an autograph collection property by Marriott, which is right by the train tracks. And so my husband called and made the reservation and simply said, hey, it's my son's 13th birthday and he loves trains. Would it be possible to put us in a room that faces the tracks? And they said, no problem, Mr. Jones, we got you. Okay, cool. But upon check-in, there was a glass of milk and cookies for Chad. And there was a birthday card that said happy 13th birthday. And it had a train on it. And I will tell you, they followed our instructions, right? We got the room facing the train tracks, but they went that little extra step to provide a yummy snack for a 13-year-old boy. And then with a card that said happy 13th birthday and with a train on it. I will say though, one opportunity for them would have been to put his name on the card, because it was clear that they had to print that up. They didn't have just a stockpile of cards with trains on them, right? So I appreciated what they did, but that little extra personalization is the key, right? So that's your takeaway, right? We're trying to create those emotional responses from the client. And as a mom, what makes a mom happy is when her kids are happy. So that little extra touch, if they would have just put his name on the card, it would have been an A++. They got an A, it was great. But keep those things in mind when you're addressing your clientele, whether it's the maid who's writing a note or if you're doing an amenity, right? Because gifting is crucial, and really nobody's better at gifting than people in the hospitality space, in my opinion. And I'll tell you why gifting is crucial, because it anchors the experience, right? Let that sink in for a second. That gift anchors the experience, because that's what's creating the emotional response that you're going to get from the client that's going to make them a client for life. So when you gift with intention. When you gift with sincerity. Make it meaningful, make it special, and it doesn't have to be expensive, right? So let's talk about budget. I have another story for you. So I have a gentleman who is really at the top of his game in his field, travels a lot, wealthy guy, very well known, was at a property he doesn't normally go to. And he shared the story because he was so impressed, and I was impressed too, and here's why. When he made his reservation, they knew who he was, they knew what company he worked for, and the staff took it upon themselves to dive into his social media, right? And what they saw was how much he loved his dogs. I mean, this guy had pictures on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere, him and his Weimaraners. I mean, those were his babies. So he checks into the hotel, they greet him warmly, right? Everything's right to a T, get him checked in, get the bags up to the room. He walks in the door and there are pictures of his dogs in frames, one on the nightstand, one on the dresser by the TV, with a handwritten note that basically said, we know this is going to be your home away from home for a few days. We're so happy to have you with us. And so that you're not too homesick missing your fur babies, we thought we could have you help them by, have them help you staying here by having those pictures to remind you of your babies. And he was blown away. And they knocked it out of the park. And it didn't cost a lot. It took a few minutes to do some social media. It took a couple seconds to print the pictures up, right? A couple little picture frames from a local shop, and they were done.
Love it.
Right? But look how special that was for the client. Yeah. And so for him now it's, I want to come back to this property again and again and again. And I'm going to tell everybody I know, because there he was on a webinar telling everybody who was listening about the experience he had at this particular hotel. And so it's those kinds of things that we want you to start thinking about, right? That's where your mindset needs to be on how you can step up your game by personalizing, and again, it doesn't have to be expensive. Cute little sleep masks with your logo on it. Aligning yourself with the right people. Packaging is key, right? As budgets come back, I highly recommend the branding be right. It's kind of like hot sauce, right? A little is good, too much is, kills you. And so we have to be cognizant of that. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that when you're gifting certain things too, that you've got some items that the client can take home with them, right? Not just something they can use there. It's great, but then when it's gone, it's gone. But if they've got a little memento that they can take back, right? Like that little sleep mask, downloading or whatever. There's some cute ones out there with a little logo from the hotel. They're going to remember that. They're going to remember that that was in a cute little pouch just there for them, again, with a little note for your slumber tonight, sweet dreams.
And I think, we have so many opportunities with all the different seasons that roll through. And, wherever we are tuning in from today, there's a rhythm to your area, to your city, to your market. And so, with sports on the horizon for Las Vegas, and we know all the big weekends that are coming with the NFL kickoff and, all the different sports that will be there in the coming months, that's a huge way to people's heart. And, that noticing opportunity is everywhere. And if we can just get our teams to start to see and detect those opportunities and then act on them, communicate the opportunity, you're creating the culture of kind of, activation of creating these personalized experiences. But you have to create the culture for it to really take off. And one of the places that hit it out of the park with me was at a hotel in England. And I happened to be checking in with my Manchester United bag. And, and I'm in London at the Barclay Hotel. Beautiful, beautiful property. And of course, the valet and the door and everyone's giving me a little bit of a ribbing because I'm in Chelsea territory, which is, the arch rival to them. But, they noticed my cap, they noticed my bag. Long story short, I was looking for a pub to go watch the Chelsea and Manchester United game. By the time I came back, there was this incredible amenity in my room. And it didn't have to be expensive. I think it had champagne in it, but it really could have, a nice bottle of water, like a nice filtered water bottle. It had a couple of treats and it had this plaque, almost like a very nice coaster material of Manchester United and their logo. And it was just positioned there on the table upon return, along with Turndown. And so I was just really excited and blown away that they just wanted me from the beginning to realize that they noticed something on me, something that was important to me. And I still talk about that story everywhere I go because of how impactful and beautiful it was. And of course, they probably had plaques from every single English Premier League team, La Liga squad, you name it, in the back, right? But it was that, hey, if we notice something about the guest, be prepared, act, and create that connection that I still talk about today. And that happened, over 2 years ago. So it can be done, and it doesn't have to cost a lot, but you have to see these things and get the staff to begin seeing these things.
Right. And those are the things that take practice, but that goes to what we talked about in the beginning, right? About people want to be seen, right? And that's how you see them, right? You pay attention to what they're carrying. If there's a particular team, everybody likes to wear their swag with their favorite football program or hockey team. And so those are opportunities every time. There's also an opportunity when people are just chatting at check-in while they're waiting for everything to get finalized. And you might overhear mom or dad talking to the kids. The kids might be so excited to go to the pool, or when can we get ice cream, right? And then that's another opportunity. If you set up a bowl of ice cream for the children later in the day, unexpectedly and not asked for, but oh my gosh, the kids were just talking about ice cream. well, you heard that and you
Mhm.
paid attention, and here's a little something for you. And so that's going to mean the world to people that you took that little bit of extra time. And so that's what this is really about. This is about paying attention to those opportunities, because we can get lost in the operational side. It's really easy to be overwhelmed with the lack of staff, the fact that you've got everything on you. Nobody's back to work yet. I have a hotel that in the beginning was outsourcing maid service to cleaning
Quite common.
companies, right? Because they couldn't get their maids back in. And so those kinds of things are stressful, and we get that, and it's again, it's overwhelming, and it makes you wonder what is happening, what are we going to do, how do we overcome this? You've got all this in the back of your mind, and then what winds up happening is you miss out on those opportunities that are right there in front of you because you're
Yeah, and I
behind.
just want, again, the whole gifting component is really Melanie's, beautiful expertise. And I've been wowed with what how I've seen her engage some of my clients as well. And the other huge aspect of that is taking care of your team members that are back and that are top performing. That is really a huge opportunity to utilize that whole special touch moment, because right now, for example, I'm being called out as processes have changed and protocols are in place, and they're asking me, so can you come out and just give us some feedback? We'd like to know how we're doing. And every single one of those persons that has adjusted and still made that connection with me, I leave there and I ask, my colleagues, I say, so what are you going to do to, recognize this person? Like, how are you going to reward them for, really showing through what you wanted them to show through? And sometimes they've given thought to it, sometimes they haven't. And to me, I think it's another huge opportunity, because the more practice we get at this special touch offering, whether they be with our internal guest or our external guest, the better we're going to get at it, period. And that's only going to help our rebuild as an industry, but also as a property itself.
I love that you mentioned taking care of the employees.
It's huge, because right now they're delivering and they're keeping everything afloat, and they're not dealing with the easiest of situations.
Right, very true.
But um, I do love that if you're in this industry, you love a challenge.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we wouldn't all be sitting on this webinar today.
Right.
And so from the top, from the C-suite to the front line, that person, when they do something well, I like praising them, but giving them some recognition of some sort. And I'm always about blasting that recognition to the team as a whole, because then it shows everybody what is possible. And then all of a sudden, if everyone feels part of this rebuild and part of this re-engagement with our guests that are coming, we're only going to get there quicker and on more solid ground and with less, stress along the way. But it's a beautiful opportunity to me.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I agree with that. One of the co-founders of the Marriott property, I had a chance to visit with his daughter, and she shared a story about her dad's philosophy about everything. And for him, the most important component for the hotel were the staff. When they were building new properties and refurbishing ones that they took over, he made sure that the places where they had a chance to eat and wind down and recuperate were built first and were the nicest before he worried about everything else out front, because to him, that was the heart and soul of the property. And so I love, love, love that you just touched on that. I think that that's huge. And thank you for the compliment on my gifting. So one of the things that Bernie and I have had many conversations about is the fact that as hospitality comes back and as you're still understaffed, one thing that you may want to look at are who your resources are to help you, right? And how are you outsourcing those things? And if you're not, you might want to consider it, right? So for example, it's easy to talk about the training that we need, and it's easy to identify the training that's right. It's easy to see, oh gosh, we have some glaring gaps in what we're doing, but how do we get that, right? And where is the time? And so a great resource for all of you, as most of you know, Bernie, is to reach out to Bernie and say, we would like to engage and have an opportunity to talk to you, have you come and talk to our staff and help show them how to elevate that level of service, how to pay attention, all of those things to get everybody on track. The same goes for your corporate meetings, holiday parties, any retreats that are coming and booking in the hotel. You still might find that you're overwhelmed. So aligning yourself with a good meeting planner would be an ideal situation for you. So that's a little takeaway. I don't do meeting planning, but I love meeting planners because I can help them put really great gifts and swag and amenities together to help them help their clients, which are the hotel. But certainly, if you haven't considered reaching out, I would. And then align yourself with a strong gifting company. It doesn't have to be me, but somebody who you know you can count on, who's going to deliver what you're looking for, and who's really ideally going to take things off your plate, right? That's the point. Because if you have to have another person to babysit, then it wasn't worth the time or effort to do that. So you want to align yourself with somebody who gets your field, gets what you're going through, understands it. So you can go, hey, I need this level gift, and this level gift for people that come in that I can have ready to go. And then somebody you can help plan with. Okay, we've just signed these many contracts for these many meetings. I'm overwhelmed. Who do you know? Because I know a lot of people too, especially in the meeting world, who I can say, hey, I can help you with this. Let me have you talk to this person. Not what I do, but I know they can help you get this taken care of. And now we're starting to check boxes off, right? We're getting things done, and we know the customer ultimately is going to be cared for. And that is the point. And so if you're not outsourcing some of those things, I'd highly recommend that you do. But you want to be strategic about that, right? You want to be careful, because you need people that are strong in their field and that have a good reputation that you can ultimately count on.
You know, you mentioned about having those people on the radar for specialties. And so I was recently doing some training with Celebrity Cruises, and I was, you know, on the edge, all these ships that are going out. I'm fortunate to be doing some contract work where I'm able to go and do some of this, you know, this meeting with the cruise line groups. And when I was working with the team, you know, I'm getting them, they haven't been out on a ship in a year and a half. And so they are rusty. Everyone's rusty, and it's quite natural. But what I loved was they were putting their personal retreat host, which is their fancy term for a butler, through some high-end butler style training. Now, I've been a butler before, but it was many moons ago. And I've been working, you know, in the space of operational refinement for over 10 years now, in my days with Forbes and now with Polish Service. And so butler training is a specialty as far as I'm concerned. And I was fortunate to be dining with, she was on board doing the training with the butlers as I was doing my training with the different groups. And we had some dinner, and she's in Mexico City. But that is exactly the kind of connection that is available out there. And so, you know, just always know who to reach out to. And now I'm building that relationship with this fantastic butler trainer, because she's the person I would put in, you know, in touch with someone who might be looking for that level of training, which is highly specialized. Just don't ever feel that you have to go to a third party just for a buy, I guess is what I would love to leave you with, because we really are, I love that everybody from the provider space to everyone on this call, to the educators out there, everybody has, it's an all hands on deck type of moment to rebuild our industry. And we thought we were going to be able to rebuild it over the next few years, and it would be a little bit different pace. And we've learned that it's kind of coming at us like a freight train. And so that's what I get excited about. And I just have one final story, and then I want your questions. So be thinking about questions you might have for myself or Melanie as well. This story, I apologize, Nicole, you probably heard it, because I've been telling it for 20 years, because it was that powerful. And I'm a big college football fan. Anyone who knows me on here probably knows I love my college football, and I travel to the away games. And I follow the Mean Green at UNT, North Texas, and they play in some small towns. I mean, they play in some interesting little places. Jonesboro, Arkansas is where this, story took place. Well, part of it. We were traveling up to the game in Jonesboro, which is about a 4-hour drive from Dallas. We go up, a lot of tailgaters on here. You know how it goes. You go all day, you go to the game, you have a blast, and you're exhausted. It may be just a 4-hour drive, but you're going to want to, park the bones somewhere and sleep for a little bit. And my philosophy, and this was back in 2003, is that, it just has to be clean. Like I can sleep in a lot of places. Yes, I'm a 5-star trainer, but I can pretty much sleep anywhere as long as the place is really clean. So I'm staying at this place that is in the middle of kind of nowhere, Arkansas. I couldn't even tell you where it was today. It was a motel, a Super 8, who, I love Super 8s. I mean, they're fine. Super 8, train track running across the street, parking lot, doors open to the outside, nothing fancy at all. It's a November game, so it's quite cold outside, and we're all, bundled up. We got our stuff. We go and sleep, and the next morning, as I'm loading the car up, there's a pizza flyer that is waving in the wind, and it's on my windshield. And of course, I am rounding up the troops, and I get everybody into the car. The last thing I do is I go and I just pull that pizza flyer right off my windshield. And I'm about to crumple it up, but then I look and it's not a pizza flyer. It says, in the hope that you make it home safely, we washed your windshield overnight. Thank you for staying with us. Super 8 management stamp, right? It wasn't even signed or anything, but it was, and I just sat there for a moment, and everyone in the car is like, let's go. And I just sat there for a moment because I was like, I'm in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas right now, but somebody here gets it. They get it. And I was getting ready to move to Hawaii just a few months later. And I was going to be my first director of training position. And I took that letter that was on my windshield as a reminder of what can be done. Because, fast forward almost 20 years now, and I'm working with the peninsulas and the Winds and the Resorts Worlds and the Four Seasons and Mandarin Orientals of the world. And I always tell this story, and it just kind of brings, because I end it with, I say, if they can do that at a Super 8, what could we do with the resources that we have? Some of the most brilliant properties around the world. And so I challenge them and I say, I encourage you to create your windshield wiper moment in every single department. Imagine if I'm the guest and I have a windshield wiper moment at check-in, when I go to the restaurant, when I go to the pool, when I check out, when housekeeping comes and does service. I'm all of a sudden going to be incredibly planted, and I love your word, anchored, because I would be anchored to that place and the people that brought that place to life. So, true story, and I still have that letter today. It's tattered. I finally framed it because this is too good. No one will believe me. But wow, a Super 8 that I wish I knew where it was today, because if they can do it there, we can do it anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We absolutely can.
Absolutely. That's a great story.
But I think it would be good to take some questions.
Sure.
Shall we? I mean, yes. If anyone has some questions you'd like to ask about anything that we've talked about, or even if you don't have a question, but you have a comment or a thought about what you're doing, we would love you to just come off mute and share that with us, and how you're doing with the rebuild and with your teams.
We have a shy group.
We're not that shy. Nicole's not shy. Nicole's not shy. Frank's not shy.
I'll unmute. I was going to type it, but so what are your thoughts on handwritten as opposed to typed notes? I love handwritten, but I've had a lot of my peers where I am tell me that just type it, don't handwrite it. Nobody's going to care that it's handwritten. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm like you, Nicole, I have to be honest. I feel there's such a personalization to the handwritten note. I have seen some more kind of scripted letters upon arrival, but still signed. But it doesn't have quite the effect as just, kind of a quick note wishing someone a good day or a special occasion. Not everybody's traveling on a special occasion, but, you know, just wishing them a good day or on checkout, the night before checkout, thank you for staying with us. I mean, little notes like that they have such power to resonate because right now everyone is a little bit traumatized over the last year and a half. And so when you go to some place that cares, and it can be quite powerful, and everyone can do this quite inexpensively, but I'm a big fan of the handwritten.
I agree with Bernie. I think that right now in our age of technology, where everybody's texting and sending email, that the art of the handwritten note has been lost. And I think that a lot of our younger generation don't understand the power of what that means to get a handwritten note, because ease and convenience have superseded the time to care for someone, right? And the handwritten note brings us back there. It slows down the pace, and it reminds everyone that somebody took the time to sit down and think about what they were going to put in that note card, right? Because in your back of a client's mind, if it's a typed note, well, that could be just a canned note that you write to everybody, and all you did was substitute my name out for somebody else. To me, it's not as special. So I agree with you, Nicole, that the handwritten note is a big deal, and I would continue to do that if I were you.
And if I could add one more thing about technology, because technology is with us, but one of the coolest things I got whenever I was getting ready to go and work on that ship in Greece is when everything was finalized, from the bookings to the COVID testings for me to be able to travel, and when the plan was finally made and I was going to head out there, they immediately sent me just a small video from the team, and it was my main contact and several of the colleagues, just sending me a quick video, literally made on the phone, welcoming me, telling me they were excited I was coming on board. So the optics, right? The optics have never been more important. And you can see it's going back to the senses as well. I'm seeing something, and then I feel something, and I hear something. And so use technology, it's going to be there, but you can still use it to personalize.
I like that. That's a good one for the millennials.
For everyone with the phone.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so Bernie, Melanie, thank you again for all the great feedback and perspective of what we're going through. I actually work in a hotel in downtown Dallas. I went back to my roots, and you really just really hit on the nail on the team members that we have at the front office. None have a hospitality background. I have airline employees. I have event planners. I have everybody that have somewhat an understanding, but no one that has come directly from hospitality. So and so they're learning. They're great, but it's still almost like a learning curve of getting. But that's the staff that we can hire right now, and that's, I don't know if that's what Vegas is going through or what some of the other cities are going through, but that's what we're going through here. So you really hit it on the nail for. But going back on handwritten notes, one of a colleague, one of my co-managers that works with me, we give out for anniversaries and birthdays and stuff. The champagne and just the normal stuff that we give. But we hand personalize every note card that goes out to that guest or with that champagne. We don't know them, but we know them by searching, like you said, social media or by just information that we get from Opera or whatever, how it was booked. But we personalize it, and we're so blessed to have someone who has some penmanship and some artist background. She goes, and it's a little note card, but she puts the big H for happy, and then the big B for birthday, and then almost cartoonish like, but still very, very polished. But she hand personalizes it, note personalizes it, and it goes a long way. It really, really does, than having something that's typed up or something that's just, it's very personal. And I always commend her for taking the time every day, by putting a trace or putting a reminder or some type of alert that goes, and we do that every day for our arrivals for the next night. So
That's a beautiful,
I love
beautiful
it.
my
effort.
feedback
yeah.
on real life that's happening out there in a hotel, in the operations front office, and so you hit it right on the nail, and some great feedback and takeaway on this webinar. So thank you.
Great, thank you,
Thank
Frank.
you, Frank.
Anyone else have a question? Okay.
No? Okay,
Well,
well,
I think today was valuable, and hopefully you were able to take away some thoughts. And I definitely am excited to return to Vegas very soon, and
yes.
to connect with and see how the city is coming back. And I can't, back to what Frank was mentioning about all the different team members that are landing in our departments to work. I can't stress enough from my training perspective how valuable and important it is to praise a lot during the development portion of their new career. Even if they have hospitality background, but they're coming into your culture, it's a different culture, it's new for them, and they want to know they're doing it the right things. So as leaders, absolutely get really good and hyper focused on the coaching element, because that praise is going to keep them performing and doing those things that you appreciate. And it'll also keep them motivated and move them along in their development, because we're going to have a lot of this for a while. Let's face it, especially the size of properties that we have in Las Vegas. We'll always have people coming into the industry. And so it's a reset in a lot of ways, as much as it is a rebirth and a reemergence. And so have fun, and always look to us for any kind of support that we can provide.
Absolutely. Anybody have any parting thoughts before we go? Anthony, I saw you on mute. I thought maybe you might have had a comment you'd like to share. No? Okay. Well, one thing that I learned a long time ago is this. People may forget your name, but they're never going to forget how you make them feel.
It's true.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you. You made us feel very special.
Yes.
For giving us your time today.
We really appreciate it.
We look forward to meeting you on one of the events in the future. Yes. And until then, have a great rest of the summer, everyone. Thank you for participating. Goodbye now.
Thank you.
Thank you.